Hi, I'm Susan Dietrich. I'm the training manager for Disaster Relief Operation 821 Typhoon Merbok in Alaska. And I'd like to welcome you to the Disaster Workforce Orientation. This class is for responders to the disaster site, boots on the ground. If you are a virtual responder, welcome, but you might want to contact me and I can get you a more appropriate orientation. So let's go ahead and I'll show you my slides. So this is an actual picture from the typhoon. This is one of my favorite slides. It makes me feel so patriotic. We're here through Red Cross to prevent and alleviate human suffering. What an opportunity. And I'm proud of the way that Red Cross rallied and was able to continue its humanitarian support in the face of COVID. Now, you answered the call and you've deployed to DR 821. We thank you. This may be a local or regional deployment for you. If it's local or less than 50 miles, you'll be driving to and from the disaster site. You'll be reimbursed for the mileage. If it's further and you have committed to staying 3 to 10 days to work the disaster, you'll also be given lodging and a mission card. Now, there's a commitment of 14 days for national deployment. An exception is a 10-day commitment for health and mental health care workers. And you'll be given lodging and a mission card in your deployment. The mission card is like a debit card with a small stipend for expenses. We're always careful to be frugal and protect the donor dollar. So watching the 30-minute video about mission cards is required to deploy, and you'll get all of your information there. You can find it on the edge. It will tell you about withdrawing funds and reloading. You can only withdraw up to $100 cash, and if there are fees on the ATM, then it will make it $80. But all of this is on the video, so I encourage you to watch that. If it's been many years, you may want to watch that again. So the video will tell you about withdrawing funds and reloading. I might mention making a mark on your card when the waitress returns your card with your buddy's cards, and they all say Red Cross staff. You'll be the one to recognize your card. Now, because this DR is unusual, let's begin with a situational report. Typhoon Merbok swept in with waves up to 40 and 50 feet high. And it's the strongest storm to reach Alaska since 2005. It spared the Aleutian Islands, but it devastated a 1,000-mile stretch of the western coast, damaging homes, seawalls, water systems, airport runways, and the few roads that exist between the 40 affected villages. Recovery efforts are especially challenging because all of the villages are only reachable by boat or plane. Of course, air delivery is expensive, and the use of barges will end soon due to sea ice. Communities have been identified, and Red Cross disasters are using Nome and Bethel as hubs. In Alaska, village shelters are run by government and tribal groups. Red Cross is serving as a support. As of Wednesday, the 21st, 15 shelters were open with 55 people staying overnight. Disaster assessment workers and intake workers fly out in small planes to the villages to identify damage to help with funds. Red Cross is now opening a small client shelter in Nome. Now, in case you haven't already left for the DR, let's touch on what to bring. Remember your identification. You know about getting a real driver's license as soon as you can. It's a good idea to keep a copy of your driver's license in your luggage. And before you leave for the airport, make sure you know who your supervisor is. That information should be on your DR assignment page and later on the IAP. Of course, you'll need Red Cross apparel. On a DRO, everyone wears shorts or jeans. Up in Alaska, you're going to be wearing jeans and heavier clothes that are appropriate for work, and closed-toe shoes. You may or may not have a vest. If you have one, wear it. You must have your Red Cross ID with the vest on or a lanyard whenever you're on Red Cross duty. When we're off work, we take off anything with the Red Cross branding. And all Red Cross IDs are taken off the cars. Now, if you go for a drink with friends, you can't have anything that identifies you with Red Cross, including a vehicle ID. Perhaps you haven't left for the DR and you are packing. So pack for weather and the job you will be doing. Weather in Alaska can be moderate in Anchorage, but obviously colder in the north. You will not know your Alaskan hub in advance. You might be in Bethel, you might be in Nome. The weather is very different in those two places, so prepare for the coldest climates. Before you leave, check the weather reports for Nome, Alaska. This week, the lows are 30 degrees. Bring wool and polyester garments rather than cotton, and you will need a warm hat, gloves, and boots, waterproof boots. Likely you will be leaving your gear at the hub and flying to villages carrying only a backpack. What you keep in your backpack is up to you, but you'll need a hand sanitizer, masks, a phone, just in case that you have cell phone tower availability, a power bank for your cell phone, a fleece jacket to layer. One of the best ways to succeed is to stay informed. The DRIS system, phone or text messages, will give you travel information. You may also want to download the Red Cross Emergency app. You'll be receiving an incident action report every evening. It gives great and necessary information, especially a briefing about the disaster and the Red Cross mission objectives, safety messages relevant to the DRO, and a contact roster with all the phone numbers and email addresses that you'll need. We won't include the numbers on this video because they will change. So find them on the IAP and take a cell phone picture of them. The IAP also has a daily schedule of meetings. There are other sources of information. RC Collect for disaster assessment gives you the report of damage across counties. But information as specific as by the neighborhood. Microsoft Teams not only allows you to meet with your colleagues, but it's a place where much information is stored for your use. Your supervisor may suggest that you check out some materials there. Lessons Learned is an interesting internet site. It's a blog where Red Crossers discuss their experiences and give tips. I've learned some really interesting things on that site. And Red Cross View allows you to see the broad mission of Red Cross across the US or by the specific DRO. Here you can see where Red Cross is allocating its resources, how many volunteers, how many shelters, how many IRV drivers, how quickly a DRO is scaling up, all sorts of information. There's also something called a Red Cross dashboard, and if you have access to that, you can have endless information. Now, before COVID, we checked in at the disaster headquarters and we were assigned lodging. Now everything is done virtually. You'll receive lodging information the day that you travel. If you're a veteran Red Crosser, you know that lodging varies. If you're in Anchorage, likely you will be staying in a hotel. Know that your hotel arrangements may change during the deployment. Do not change your room unless notified by the staff services. And if you leave, be sure that staff services knows so we don't continue to pay for that room. If you're in Bethel or Nome at a hub, you will be at a staff shelter and sleep on a cot in a sleeping bag. Now, this deployment is unusual, and you'll need to be at your most flexible. You may be given hours' notice to board a tiny plane headed to the coast. If they picked you up at the airport, uh, then they may have a car. If you picked up a car at the airport, remember to tell staff services when you check in. They may need that car for something else, or they may let you keep it. Of course, you'll do all the safety measures, wearing a seatbelt, no texting, or using the phone when you're driving. Red Crossers drive respectfully, so you most likely won't get tickets. But they will go on your license and right out of your pocket if you do. If you're in an accident, immediately call your supervisor first thing. Your supervisor will give you the number for logistics and call and report it to them too. Don't let the fuel tank get low. For chapter cars using assigned gas cards, be sure to pay inside instead of outside at the pump. The card is located in the driver's side visor. Your supervisor will discuss the procedure about receipts. Fuel expenses should be shared with everyone using their mission cards. So whomever is riding in that car should have a turn at filling it up. Now, you won't drive through water, right? This is just a reminder to be super careful. In blue skies, we don't worry about losing our way. We have a cell phone. We could stop by a gas station for directions. But in a disaster, sometimes the gas stations are closed and you can't get a cell signal. So have really good directions before you leave. And if you are leaving someplace, then you need to return. You may want to take some cell phone pictures at the intersections. Sometimes there are not some good street signs. I imagine that you're taking good care of yourself in general circumstances. But a disaster is disorienting. Pass on the Red Cross snacks and eat healthy. Drink lots of fluids. It will help you stay grounded to talk to your family and friends at home. Your supervisor will schedule a day off for you. Take it. Really do take it. Virtual deployment is new to many of us. Without deployment, lights out. No one is monitoring how much rest we're getting. Working in a different time zone may have thrown you off of your sleep pattern. I recommend the Edge course, Fundamental of Deployment for Virtual Workers. It's a 20-minute video, and I do highly recommend it. Stay up with the Red Cross regulations, depending on your location. You must wear an FDA-approved mask whenever you are with others. The mask must be at least 2 layers, and it needs to consistently cover both the nose and the mouth. If your buddy's mask slips below his nose, just remind him. Now, if you are out in the bush, traveling to remote villages, water is scarce. When you do see soap and water, wash. Other times, just use your hand sanitizer. While Red Cross cannot require you to test for COVID, working at the headquarters, it's strongly encouraged. Responders to villages will test every other day during their stay at the hub, and again they will test before they return home. So every other day testing for COVID, and if you're not comfortable with that, we will find another job for you. Other safety reminders, oh, we all know not to mess with electrical power lines. Watch for them and be attentive for the smell of gas. And a new concern that Red Cross raises is a large group. This is less relevant in Alaska, more relevant in other parts of the country where there might be some sort of political gathering or something like that, or a parade. You're probably fine in Alaska, but we tend to avoid large groups. I think it goes without saying that Red Cross has a zero tolerance policy for violence or harassment, whether it's staff, a volunteer, or a client. As with any issue, go to your supervisor. Drugs and alcohol are also not permitted. Red Cross has an effective procedure to resolve problems during feedback, coaching, and sometimes mediation. First stop is your supervisor. If you're having a problem, and if the supervisor can't resolve it, then you contact staff services. If staff services doesn't can't do it, then operations management. But like everything in Red Cross, there is a procedure. And actually, I know somebody who went through the issue resolution process with a supervisor, and it turned out to be a wonderful experience for them. So if you're having problems, don't avoid this. We don't tolerate, we embrace the diversity of our clients and of our volunteers. We are neutral and we respect people's perspectives even when they don't agree with ours. So we always avoid discussions of politics and religion. We'll have the opportunity to interact with people with a variety of disabilities. We ask, we listen, and we will be told how to help. The Red Cross phrase, getting to yes, comes to mind when trying to meet needs in a disaster. If we can't come up with a solution to meet a need, we raise it to the level of a supervisor. We love our clients and we're empathetic. That's why we're here. And we do sometimes need to ensure that we're not being judgmental. Us? Judgmental? We help anyone. We help anyone who is needing our help. Now, you may find as you go to the different villages that there are different cultural mores. This is an exciting difference in this deployment, but we need to be aware of the differences in cultures, embrace them, and respect them. You will find relationships, especially with the family, are their priorities. Titles or your position outside of Red Cross will hold little interest for them. But why you joined Red Cross and why you want to help them will be interesting to them and important. Some of your clients will prefer physical distance and are not comfortable with handshakes. Only shake hands if it is initiated. Know also that pointing is considered rude. Eye contact is an important difference. Your clients may not make eye contact with you, and staring or looking strongly at someone is considered rude and a challenge. So, moderation. What seems to be contradictory, hugging is often acceptable if it is a heart to heart hug. Shoulder hugs or half hugs may be interpreted as being insincere. The primary difference is about intent. If you speak, speak with purpose. If you say, "How are you today?" mean it and wait for a reply. Your clients may think it's odd if you comment on the weather, as that information is pretty obvious. Silence is valued among people in the villages, so avoid small talk and don't try to fill long pauses by talking. Alaskans take time to think about a question and often a long pause before replying. They may nod instead of responding. If you have a client who isn't communicating, it may be that you're asking too many questions or that you're speaking too fast. So be sure to pause and give them time to answer. It's of primary importance to slow your speech. Your clients will speak much slower, and they will appreciate you slowing your speech. They will talk softer and with less inflections. Try to mirror the slow pace, asking only important questions and discussing meaningful topics. Also, please be respectful of tribal property. If you smoke, be discreet and take a baggie for your cigarette butts to bring them back to the hub. Feelings run high in a disaster. We make lifelong friends, and occasionally we'll have a personality conflict. But we try to be our best selves when we deploy. We stay flexible, kind, and it's important to stay in our own lane. In the Red Cross, we are in the service mode of leadership. A manager will serve supervisors. The supervisor's responsibility is to serve service associates and help them do their jobs serving the clients. And with the Red Crosser who is supervising us, well, we do our best to support the leader, even if it's not the way we would do it ourselves. Supporting leadership helps team morale. Reporters and cameramen would like information and pictures, especially from shelters. But it's our job to keep the privacy of our clients. Now, you can go ahead and give your name and where you're from, what specific activity you perform, but it's best to ask the media to contact public affairs or to get your supervisor. Social media is certainly available to us, but still we need to protect our clients. We cannot post pictures showing faces without an official waiver from the Red Cross. Waivers are available. Just ask at HQ, at headquarters, but we cannot show the faces without an official waiver. But as Red Cross ambassadors, we have the opportunity to write about our positive experiences on Twitter and Facebook. But if you have difficulty on a DR, Something negative. I suggest that the place to write about that is on Lessons Learned, and that's a Red Cross blog. You may also get visits from well-intentioned people from the community. They will bring clothing you've collected, shoes, maybe food they have cooked. We can't take those, of course, but we express our gratitude. If they ask how they may help, a financial contribution of any size will help. And you may want to take a picture of this page to save the numbers. So I will pause for just a minute and let you take a picture, a cell picture, or maybe you can remember just 1-800-HELP NOW or online www.redcross.org. It's nice if somebody is wanting to do something and wanting to donate, that we can go that extra bit and get them to the right place. And now it's time to go home. How did it happen that fast? Well, if you have a car or equipment, you'll need to return it and make sure it's out of your name. Check out with staff, and that will be over the phone. It is policy that supervisors submit an evaluation to their volunteers, even if they have served under someone for at least 7 days, or they can ask for an evaluation. So if you have worked a DR for 5 days, you can ask for a evaluation, and you'll get one. If you've worked 7 days or longer, then you should absolutely get one no matter what. But you just need to remind the person who's going to be writing it. And suddenly you're home. It's disorienting that life has moved on. The disaster is old news, while you know the devastation that still remains. Red Cross mental health workers call within the first week. You've been dealing with people who've lost their homes, been displaced, lost family or friends to the flood. Our clients look to us to vent and debrief. Well, the Red Cross nurses are dedicated to listening to your experiences, both the hard ones and the joyful ones. Share your experiences with others. Your family is proud of you, but they won't understand the depth of your emotions. Thank them for taking care of things at home to allow you to deploy. And get together with Red Crossers in your chapter. Do some public speaking for Red Cross and give yourself some time. And then join us again. Thank you for your service. My email is at the bottom of the slide, susan.dietrich2@redcross.org. Please email me with any questions that you have. I'm glad to help you in any way. Have a good evening.